It's time to break down the Buffalo Bills Week 1 opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Well, folks, welcome in. Now that we're about to do the primer, it feels like the season is really here. I'm excited. I love doing this stuff. And I've spent my day studying the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm ready to break them down for you and get ready for a pretty unique opponent. The Bills and Cardinals don't play that often. And so we'll get you ready for week 1 right now. And listen, if you've been around, you've been doing this with me for a long time, you know exactly what's going to happen. If you're new this year, welcome. I'm glad you're here. This is how I get ready for a football game. Let's do it. We'll get into the nuts and bolts first. The Bills at home, week 1, to host the Arizona Cardinals. The game will be played on Sunday, September 8th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. The game will be broadcasted on CBS. Tom McCarthy is on the play-by-play. Jay Feely and Ross Tucker are the game analysts, and Tiffany Blackman is the sideline reporter. One note here on the sideline reporters, there are going to be a lot more in-game interviews with coaches. The NFL has made some changes this year. There's going to be more with coaches, more with coordinators, players before the game, so get ready for that. There's going to be a lot of in-game interviews, and I'm not sure how they're going to go. I don't think these guys want to be talking to reporters in the middle of games very often, and so they're usually pretty cringe whenever you watch them now. Now there's going to be more. We'll see. That's going to be interesting to see how that goes this year. This will be the 12th all-time meeting between the Bills and the Cardinals. The Bills have a 7-5 all-time record against Arizona. The last meeting, we're not going to talk about that. The Cardinals are one of 3 teams that Josh Allen has yet to beat. It's the Cardinals, the Eagles, and the Colts. So he'll get a chance this year to knock 2 of those off the list, and the Cardinals and the Colts leaving just the Eagles as the lone team in the NFL he hasn't beaten. The Bills enter this game, of course, after a 2023 season that saw the team go 11-6. The Cardinals were 4-13 last year, and the big storyline for them was Kyler Murray, their quarterback. He didn't play the first half or so of the season. He only started 8 games, the last 8 games of the year, because he tore his ACL the year before. And so they switched coaching staffs and did so with Kyler Murray on the shelf for half the season. And so he came back in later in the season, and when they got Kyler Murray back, they went 3-5. Their 3 wins came against the Falcons, Steelers, and Eagles, but an overall 4-13 record. Head coach of the Arizona Cardinals is Jonathan Gannon, 41 years old. It's his second season with the Cardinals as their head coach and as an NFL head coach. Of course, the 4-13 record so far. Before he was the head coach in Arizona, he was the Eagles defensive coordinator in 2021 and 2022. He came up under Mike Zimmer in Minnesota, also Matt Eberflus with the Colts. The quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals is Kyler Murray, 27 years old, was a number 1 overall pick in 2019 out of Oklahoma by the Cardinals, has started 65 games for his career. Arizona is 28-36-1 in those games. And over the last 2 seasons, Kyler Murray is 6-13 as the starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. In 2023, he completed 65.7% of his passes, 225 passing yards per game, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a passer rating of 89.4. Kyler Murray's a dual threat quarterback, 5'10", 207 pounds, very good athlete, a guy that can really make you miss, very twitchy, explosive runner. He's got a lot of arm talent. Obviously a unique player at 5'10", 207, but he's one of those guys that's very creative as a playmaker because he does have the big arm. He does have the athleticism. Very explosive athlete. You know, when I think about Kyler Murray, I think about a player that invites a lot of chaos when he plays quarterback. Bruce Nolan, my buddy, he described Kyler Murray one time as a matador. And I think that's an absolutely perfect way to describe the style of play that he has. He's one of those quarterbacks that likes to hold on the ball a little bit. The rush will get to him. Guys get close to him, and then he just kind of dumps it off. Finds little outlets, has unique arm angles, very creative playmaker, can throw off platform, can really change his arm angles and get the ball out. Creative. I think that's a good way to describe Kyler Murray. Some other things about Kyler Murray that I think are important for me to point out about his game. He's a guy that has been very successful against the blitz. And I think that's because it really plays into what I just described. He wants people to kind of close in on him and then escape and throw the ball. Last season, he had 112.4 passer rating when blitzed. When he wasn't blitzed, his passer rating was 82.2. That's a notable difference. And so we'll get to the keys, but obviously this is a player that you want to get organic pressure on. You don't want to send a lot of extra rushers. That plays into what he wants. Last year with Kyler Murray, and I'm sure a lot of this played into coming off of a knee injury plus a new offense, right? A brand new offensive system that he wasn't part of practicing in OTAs and camp and preseason. And so I'm sure it's pretty difficult to come in and execute under. And so I thought Kyler last year played it very safe. Not a lot of big-time throws, also not a lot of turnover-worthy throws. He was bottom 10 in the league in deep percentage in terms of throwing the ball 20 yards or more down the field. And a huge percentage of his yards, 56% of his yards, came after the catch. That's number 5 in the NFL. So I say all that to say that projecting Kyler Murray, the 2024 version of him, is a little bit difficult because of the dynamics that existed last year with him coming off the ACL in a new offense and doing so in the middle of the year. And so I'm interested to see what the vision is for Kyler Murray, because I think we're finally going to have an opportunity to see what that is in week 1 against the Bills. So we're going to talk about the offensive coordinator, the O-line, the weapons here on the other side of it. But folks, do want to remind you, Saturday is going to be awesome. I'm going to be part of a new tradition in Buffalo. I'll be there. Colton RV and Marines rally on the river day before kickoff festival at Buffalo Riverworks. It's a big day. A lot of things going on. And let me go ahead and tell you that it's rain or shine. This event is mostly indoors. So don't let the rain scare you away. Come on down to the Buffalo Riverworks. I'm doing a live podcast at 3:00. And I can't wait to do it. Looking forward to meeting people, doing the live show, and having a lot of fun. And it'll be a unique episode for sure. And I hope that you'll come and be part of it. Admission is free. It's a family-friendly event. There's a lot of other things going on. It's not just the podcast that I'm doing at 3. There's bands that are going to be performing, the Strictly Hip, Scott Solani, Tom Petty cover band, Mark Christie of Flipside. There's going to be a beer release party for Buffalo's first organic beer line called OM, which stands for Organically Made, all clean materials. It's great. I've tried it. It's awesome. Check that out. There's going to be local vendors. 26 shirts will be there. The Totally Buffalo store. There's food specials, tailgate specials, a lot going on. Plus Chalk Fest. You got to check out Chalk Fest. So Buffalo Riverworks is the place with the Ferris wheel on top of the grain silo, right? Super unique property. And in these grain silos, obviously a lot of concrete. Chalk artists come. They're having an invitational Chalk Fest that these chalk artists come and they're going to draw these pictures on the concrete in the grain silos. You'll be able to walk around and look at these pictures. I saw them a few weeks ago, and they're incredible. They're going to come do it like right there, and the theme is authentically Western New York, so you know it's going to be an amazing event. So come be part of it. Rally on the River. There's parking there. I know that was a concern for some people. Rain or shine, Rally on the River. I'm going live at 3 o'clock. I hope that you'll be there. If you're looking for more information, there's a link in today's show notes to the Facebook event page. I hope you check it out. I'm really, really looking forward to it. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, folks, welcome in. We're going to talk about this Cardinals offense against the Bills defense. Real quick, though, I wrote an article yesterday on Josh Allen. I went in and broke down all of his 2023 metrics and identified growth areas for 2024. That's part of my new Substack. If you want to read that article, there's a link in today's show notes for you to check that out. And I got a couple of other articles that I wrote on there as well. So check it out. Link in today's show notes to see that article on the Substack. The offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals is Drew Petzing, 37 years old, second year as the Cardinals offensive coordinator and as an NFL offensive coordinator. Fun fact on Drew Petzing, native of Rochester, New York. So a bit of a homecoming for him. He came up under Kevin Stefanski for a number of years. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach in Cleveland. Previous to that, he was in Minnesota. And so that's kind of his influence in terms of the style of offense that he runs. Now, last year, obviously, it wasn't a banner year for their metrics, but I think there's some things that I'm sure they're pretty excited about when it comes to their offense. Let me tell you some things about last year, though. They were 24th in scoring, 19th in yards, 26th in passing, 4th in rushing, actually number 2 in yards per rush. Very good rushing offense. 14th in third down conversion percentage, 8th in red zone touchdown percentage. So obviously, your 24th scoring offense in the league, that's not going to impress anybody. But they run the football extremely well. And that's not just because Kyler Murray is an athletic quarterback. They ran the ball in traditional ways extremely well. Their third down percentage, I think 14th in the league, is pretty respectable when, they're playing Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune to start the year and Kyler Murray coming in midseason. And I think 8th in red zone touchdown percentage is pretty impressive. So I think there's some positives for Arizona that they're looking to build upon. And I think they've improved their offense. And I'll tell you about their personnel right now. At wide receiver, big-time addition, top 5 pick, Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. I had him as the number 1 prospect in last year's class. I think he's unbelievable. Now, obviously, he's a rookie. This is his debut. But I think it's only a matter of time before he's one of those special receivers in the NFL. So I feel like there's going to be a lot for him throughout the course of the season, just a matter of how that ramps up. But surely they're going to want to get him involved. He's a very talented player. There are other 2 receivers that I think will get some opportunity. Michael Wilson, second-year player out of Stanford, big-bodied guy, big physical receiver, not a lot of separation, but ball skills and size. And then in the slot will be Greg Dortch. I think Greg Dortch is a good little football player. Shifty dude, really good hands, good route runner. Not super dynamic in terms of athleticism. He's small, but I think as a slot player, he's really good. And with Kyler Murray in particular, he's been very productive. So I think that's going to be your top 3. They signed Zay Jones. Zay Jones not available for this game. Their tight end's a good-looking young player in Trey McBride. You think about this landscape of young tight ends in the NFL, it's Sam Laporta, it's Dalton Kincaid, it's Trey McBride. And those are like the next wave of big-time tight ends in the NFL. He broke out last year, and I'm sure he will build upon that. Last year, they did a good job of using him to kind of just find space in zone coverage, get him the ball, and have him turn and run. Got some opportunities down the field. It was pretty successful, but they just didn't do it very often. So I think there's going to be more that they unlock this year with Trey McBride, obviously having a full off season in this system with Kyler and Drew Petzig. Running backs, they got a good pair. James Conner, their lead back, he's really good. I think people probably forget about the skill that he has, but a really physical runner that makes good decisions with the football and is just going to be willing to stick his face in there and get tough yards. He's a good back, and he can catch the ball as well. And then they drafted Trey Benson, a rookie out of Florida State, in the third round. I think very highly of him as a prospect coming out. Good size, good physicality, but he's got a big-time speed element to him where he's got breakaway speed. Again, NFL debut, not sure how much they're going to give to him in terms of opportunity, especially with James Conner in place, but some potent young playmakers here in Benson and Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride to go with Kyler Murray and what I think is a good offensive line. I don't know that this is an offensive line that I consider dominant, but I don't think there's weaknesses. I think they have a good player at every spot, a sufficient level player. And that's one thing I do is I grade every player in the NFL. I have all 5 of these starters as at least average level players. And a couple of them, there's a lot of upside, and that starts with their left tackle, Paris Johnson. First round pick last year, was a rookie, and I thought he had a good rookie season. And I think he's got unbelievable tools in terms of size, athleticism. He's physical. I loved his tape at Ohio State, and I'm sure he's going to be a fixture for that offensive line for a long time. It's year 2 for him, and I'm sure they're expecting a nice little jump. Evan Brown, their left guard, he's a sufficient starter. Yelda Froholt as their center. He's kind of bounced around, but he's found a spot here in Arizona that, he's playing his best football. They recently extended him. The right guard is Will Hernandez, very physical run blocker. And they signed right tackle Jonah Williams from Cincinnati, was a starter for them for a number of years, who I think gives them a baseline level of play. Now, I do think that's a great matchup for Greg Rousseau, to be honest with you. Jonah Williams is a player that doesn't have a lot of length, and he doesn't have a lot of power. And that's exactly what Greg Rousseau would like to hear. So I feel like Greg Rousseau should be able to really take advantage of that matchup. Williams is a good player, but he does have to work overtime to kind of overcome some of his deficiencies. And I think a player like Greg Rousseau is really ripe to take advantage of that matchup. But from left to right, again, I think they have at least a sufficient level starter in all of those spots. And a lot of times when I break down these opposing offensive lines, I'll say, hey, that guy, that's the tomato can. That's the guy. And I don't look at this offensive line and I feel like that exists. So, I think that's a big part of why they were able to run the ball so well last year. So what are my keys for the Bills on defense against this Cardinals offense? I've got 3 things written down. Number 1, you got to stop the run. The script. Team that's, let's be honest, is overmatched. It should be overmatched by the Bills. Coming into Orchard Park, they're going to want to run the ball, slow down the game, limit possessions, keep Josh Allen on the sideline, all that stuff. And so don't let that happen. You got to commit to being able to stop the run and secure with your run fits, play downhill, tackle, right? They got good yards after contact players in Conner and Benson. So get to the football and get these guys on the ground. Don't let them snatch your soul because they're running the ball extremely well. And I like the Bills' defensive line depth. I really do. I think they're going to be okay. But it's a good test here in week 1. Number 2 is organic pressure. When I say organic pressure, I mean pressure with 4. You can do simulated pressures. You can get creative with your rush, but I wouldn't commit extra rushers to Kyler Murray. He wants that. He wants everybody running at him, and then he wants to throw it around you. Don't give it to him. Organic pressure. You got to get pressure, but don't do it with extra rushers. This is not a game that you blitz. Got it, Bobby Babich, if you're listening, don't blitz this guy. And then number 3 is you got to stay true to your coverage rules. I think a quarterback like Kyler Murray and how I've kind of described his style of play, he's a guy that is going to test your ability to be disciplined as a defense. But there's one thing that's true about Kyler Murray. It's that he doesn't throw the ball in the middle of the field beyond 10 yards. And that's true for a lot of these short quarterbacks. And that's, Kyler Murray's no different. So I think what you want to do defensively is give him a lot of middle of the field open coverages. And what I mean by that, a very basic rule of playing quarterback, right? You got one high safety in the middle of the field. That is middle of the field closed. You got splits field safeties. That's middle of the field open. Okay. And you hear, people talk about this all the time. If it's middle of the field, close, you throw the ball outside the numbers. Middle of the field open, you throw the ball middle of the field. Invite Kyler Murray to throw the ball in the middle of the field beyond 10 yards. I would do it, right? Dare him. Say, hey, if you want to make throws against us, you're going to have to do it to an area of the field that you don't want to try. You got to space the field a particular way against a quarterback like this. Middle of the field open coverages. That's what I would run. And I wouldn't blitz. All right, so that's the Bills' defense against this Cardinals offense. On the other side of it, let's talk about the Cardinals' defense against the Bills' offense and Josh Allen and the opportunities that should exist for Joe Brady and company on Sunday afternoon. Be sure to stick with me. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And I'll tell you what, there's a projection that I really like for Bills Cardinals. They have Khalil Shakir, more or less 4 receptions. I think he's going to have more. So put that as part of your picks for the weekend. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL and PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, folks, let's talk about this Bills offense against the Cardinals defense. The Cardinals defense is coordinated by Nick Rallis, young, 31 years old. Second season as an NFL defensive coordinator, second season in Arizona. I was a linebackers coach in Philadelphia under Jonathan Gannon for a couple of seasons. Prior to that, he was an assistant under Mike Zimmer in Minnesota. Defense for Arizona was not good last year. 31st in scoring, 25th in total defense, gave up the most rushing yards in the league. In fact, they allowed 90 rushing yards or more in every game. They gave up 110 or more in 14 of 17 games. They didn't get pressure on the quarterback, second lowest pressure rate in the NFL, third fewest sacks. Quarterbacks had a 102.9 passer rating against this defense. Very, very suspect unit. And respectfully, I don't think they've done much or arguably anything to get better defensively in the offseason. And so I think it's going to be an uphill climb for them defensively all season long, and especially on Sunday against the Bills. Talk about their personnel real quick. Their defensive tackles, Bilal Nichols, Roy Lopez, Justin Jones. I think Nichols and Jones are good rotational players. I don't see a starting caliber interior defensive lineman among that group. Those are guys that you'd want to rotate in. On the edge, Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck are their 2 best players. Collins, a first-round pick that they've kind of struggled to find the right spot for him. I think he's best on the edge, not a high-impact player. Dennis Gardeck's a high-motor player that doesn't have a lot of length. Just, they just don't have dudes. They don't have dudes at all. They got rotational-type players with this defensive line. Their linebackers, one of their better players on defense is Kaiser White, athletic, rangy linebacker, and his running mate is Mack Wilson, who's another athletic, rangy linebacker. But Mack Wilson's been bouncing around. And so has Kaiser White. I think Kaiser White comes with some know-how and some time on task with Jonathan Gannon, which is probably helpful. At corner, I think their best player there is Sean Murphy-Bunting. He's been a starter in the league for a while, a sufficient level starter. I think they have a good-looking young slot corner in Garrett Williams out of Syracuse, actually. Thought he had a good season last year, actually coming off of injury. I'm sure he'll build upon that and probably be an answer for them. And then the other corner spot, I think it's going to be Starling Thomas or Max Melton. Thomas is a young player, but Melton's like their second-round pick out of Rutgers. Physically gifted, but a rookie as well. So we'll see who they play in that spot. The strength of the defense is their safeties. Budda Baker is one of the better safeties in the league. Plays extremely hard, flies all over the field, physical player. I mean, he's their tone setter. I think Budda Baker is the heart and soul of the Arizona Cardinals, in my opinion. And then he's got a good running mate in Jalen Thompson, who I think is a quality starter. So you got some decent players in the back seven. Your front is really limited, and you got a big question at one of your linebacker spots and at least one of your corner spots. And so I think it's going to be a tough go. Like I said, for Arizona, they just didn't do enough. They just didn't do enough for this defense in the offseason, especially given how bad it was. I just went through all the metrics. I think that's the reality with Arizona is Monty Ossenfort, their new general manager, got handed a really bad deck of cards. I mean, Steve Keim and the management beforehand was just a disaster. And they're rebuilding, but also they have like a highly paid quarterback. It's a very strange dynamic, but their defensive talent is just lacking. So what are my keys for the Bills on offense against this defense? Well, number one is dominate up front. One of the strengths of the Bills team should be their offensive line. Going up against a very suspect defensive line. You got to win. You got to open up lanes. You got to pass protect. You got to let this offense run. Should be a very good day for the Bills offensive line. Number two is, because of that, be aggressive, right? I know we talk about corners and receivers all the time. Football games are still one up front. And when you can control the line of scrimmage, that opens up the opportunities for you to be aggressive. And so whether you want to, open up the vertical passing game or get your play action stuff going, be aggressive with what you want to be as a football team, as an offense, right? I think we're all curious of what the identity of this offense is going to be. We've heard everybody eats. I've talked about it being a power spread unit. Like, there's a lot of different ideas. Go be it. Go be it. And number three is run the ball. I talked about it. These guys can't stop the run. They cannot stop the run. And I think that's going to be a core identity of what this Bills team is. That's not a bad thing, folks. I know there's this perception out there that running the ball is a bad thing. It's not. It's still a big part of winning football games. And when you can be two-dimensional and you got a quarterback like Josh Allen, you're going to be a dangerous offense. So go out and show the world the type of rushing offense that you could be against Arizona. Let's get into special teams real quick. Their kicker is Matt Prater. He's been in the league for 20 years, 40 years old, 85% last year in terms of making field goals. And even though he's 40, he can still hit from distance. 9 of 12 last year from beyond 50. Their punter's Blake Gillikin. He's one of the better young punters in the game, or at least last year he was. It's his fourth season. Spent his first two in New Orleans. His EPA per punt last year was, I think, top 5 in the NFL. Good young punter. And then their kick returner and punt returner is DJ Dallas. And I'll tell you what, DJ Dallas is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He's not a household name or anything like that, but boy, if you like high-effort physical players, DJ Dallas is for you. You don't really think of him as a punt returner. He's like a running back that's 5'10", 215, runs 4'6", but he is physical. And he's had a couple of years now, the last 2 years in Seattle as their punt returner. He's going to handle the punt and kick returns for the Arizona Cardinals, and it's an interesting choice. I never in a million years would think of DJ Dallas as a punt returner, but he's been doing it, and he's got a different type of game. He's not going to beat you he's not going to outrun you. He's not going to out-twitch you, but he's going to run you over. So you better be ready to make some big boy tackles in space against DJ Dallas. So you have it, folks. Bills, Cardinals, all the dynamics, the keys to win, all the stuff. We did it. Hopefully we get to do this 18 more times or 20 more times, however many times it is before the Bills play in February and hopefully win the Super Bowl. But this is what you can expect after the crossover Thursday episode each week as we get ready for games. Still got another episode coming for you. My last episode before the game is my final thoughts. We talked to Dr. Kyle Trimble of Banged Up Bills about injuries. And while the Bills injury report looks good, there's certainly things to get into with Matt Milano. Want to find out what's going on with Javon Solomon, who has some type of oblique injury. Just whatever nuggets that Kyle has for us, we'll have that. And then, of course, my predictions for the game. That's coming your way tomorrow. And then the rally on the river on Saturday. That's going to be an awesome time. Again, links in today's show notes to check out the rally on the river, the Substack, the subtext, all the stuff that we have going on here in terms of building this community around this podcast. So thanks for being here, folks. I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.